Okay. All right. Thank you. Uh, as I've already welcomed you guys to the class, we've also had a brief introduction. So now that we know each other's background, the purpose of this training is to provide you with the knowledge of green building concepts and design, to provide you with the knowledge that you need for completing the exam and prepare you for the certification examination, and practical hints for how to answer the questions or how to approach the questions is what we'll be looking at during the duration of this course. Okay, so we'll be beginning with the green building basics. Uh, if any of you can you tell me what green building according to you is? What do you think green building is? Okay, it's all right. Let's move ahead. So green building is basically it refers to both the structure and the process. Okay, so the structure it could be okay. Whenever we see growth happening in any place, could be an urban area, rural area, etc. But the first thing that usually gets constructed is a structure. It could be a road, it could be a building, it could be any sort of built form, right? And we often say building is also the process of building, right? So both of this combined, we're trying to create environmentally responsible structures which are also resource efficient, right? So throughout the session, we'll be looking at what sustainability is. We'll be looking at trying to defining what a green building is, IPD or integrated project delivery, the triple bottom line, what is USGBC, what is GBCI, what is LEED, different LEED rating systems, the building certification from LEED, and the LEED credential exams. Okay, so let's start with the introduction to green buildings. So, as I've already mentioned, it's to create environmentally responsible and resource efficient structures. Okay? And the process, it has to be throughout the life cycle. It cannot start at one particular phase and it cannot be just for one particular phase, right? So ultimately, we're looking at leading to sustainable development, right? So clean energy and energy efficiency, usage of recycled or recyclable products, use of renewable energy, water efficiency, all of this leading to sustainable development. And what is sustainability? It's basically the ability to coexist for a very long time. Okay, you must have heard this particular definition to meet the needs of the present without compromising on the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. So, just because we're trying to create a more sustainable future for us now, we cannot exhaust whatever resources exist because the future generations will not have anything remaining for them, right? So, keeping that in mind, keeping the fact that all of these resources are not just for us, but for the generations to come. Okay, this coexistence has to last a very long time. So, what is green building? It's the practice of creating structures and using processes that are environmentally responsible and resource efficient throughout a building's life cycle. And when I'm saying a life cycle, it starts from the planning stage to, the stage after its destruction or after dismantling. Green buildings have higher performance efficiency and are usually structures with lesser impact on the environment. They require integrated efforts of the project team. And as I mentioned, it starts from the planning stage and extends beyond the end of structure's life. So once you break down a particular building, all of the parts, what happens to it, we have to keep all of this into consideration when we take up green building process. Okay. You can reduce the negative impact on environment and human health by efficient usage of all the resources, the energy, the water, the land, and the materials. Okay, you can help protecting the occupant health and improve the employee productivity and reducing waste and pollution which we have also already seen. Okay, feel free to stop me if you think I'm going fast at any point or if you think I should repeat any particular concept again. But all of this are basics, and since all of you have exposure to what sustainability is and what green buildings are and what this particular field is, I'm just skimming through these concepts. Okay, uh, I'm hoping you can see the slide with this building. Okay, so this is an example of how green building strategies can be applied to a particular building. Okay, so we have uh, photovoltaic generation on the top. Okay, this slide is visible to all of you, right? Okay. Uh, so as you can see, once the sunlight hits the building, we first require insulation, right? And then you require restriction of sunlight. So whatever sunlight is seeping in into the building, if you can reduce it through landscaping, that's one strategy. And the next is the building's envelope through the windows, through the insulation that you can provide along the windows and along the walls. Okay. And the third is the sunlight or the heat that will get trapped in through the roof, right? So over here, we're trying to use the light that comes in to generate electricity through the solar panels or photovoltaic generation. And then there's rooftop planting to actually cool down the building, right? So create that ambient temperature inside. These are all certain strategies that we use on the outside. So what do we use inside? We need things for ventilation, we need things for lighting, and we need uh, water efficiency also, right? So for air efficiency, you need water moving in and out of the building. Sorry, you need air moving in and out of the building. Okay, and enough amount of oxygen exchange and air exchange has to happen for people to continue to be healthy. The next is lighting control. And lighting control first is through natural light. Okay, so you can have certain you know strategies where it is controlled using time or it is controlled using the lux level availability. And certain buildings also use motion detection sensors. Okay, so depending on whether or not somebody is moving through those particular corridors, you can have lights that light up only along the movement rather than having the entire corridor lighted up. Okay, so what does this do? This actually reduces the amount of time the light would stay on, but at the same time, it does not keep everybody in darkness, right? So this increases the efficiency it's a very small strategy, but such small strategies put together is where a green building comes into picture. Then we have rainwater utilization system. So whatever water gets collected, say from the rooftop or from the surface setback areas that are around the building, all of this can be collected and stored in a place, and then this rainwater can be utilized again. Now, when we look at a conventional building, which is the regular buildings that we see today, what happens? You basically destroy a lot of wildlife. You have a lot of more energy requirement because you need to operate. There's a lot of pollution. When you're trying to procure the materials from a different place, you use a lot of vehicles. There's a lot of construction, waste. There's a lot of pollution due to construction that happens, which releases toxic chemicals and gases into the atmosphere. Like I mentioned, waste generation, high resource consumption. This continues as a cycle and it keeps depleting the resources that are available. Okay. And all of us are aware of, the effects of all of this. We all are aware of the concept called climate change and how construction industry actually contributes to a large, CO2 emissions, right? So CO2 emissions indirectly causes the climate change. Now, when we look at conventional buildings, we usually have an isolated team. So you have a plumber, you have a mechanical, you have a painter, you have the designer, you have a project manager. All of these people work in isolation, as in they work at their respective stages. They complete their work, definitely. They complete their specific tasks. because they're equipped only to do that much. But they work in isolation, so there's no coordination. There's a lot of, it's a very linear process. So as one person finishes, they send it to the next one. And as that finishes, they go to the third person, right? But what we're looking in the new approach is an integrated team, where everybody is, works together as one team right from the start to finish. So it's not exactly a linear process. So there's a lot of to and fro options that can be done. Say a project manager that coordinates between, the consultants, the plumbing, the HVAC. There's a lot of work that goes on site gets altered, and a lot of errors that cannot be worked upon because an individual or a certain team had already finished working on it, right? So that kind of errors get avoided when all of these people work in collaboration together in integrated approach. So here we're integrating not just people, we're integrating all of the systems together, we're integrating the structure together, the practices and all of the process together. So what happens when we do this? What are the benefits that we reap out of this? We have optimization of the results. And what do I mean by optimization? Both minimization and maximization, right? So in minimization, we look at minimizing the resource consumption, minimizing the life cycle cost. Okay, and when we're looking at maximization, we're looking at maximizing the health of the people that stay inside. And if it's an office space or if it's a commercial space, we're looking at maximizing the productivity of those people and maximizing environmental performance also. Okay, so we're reducing waste, we're maximizing efficiency, etc., etc. Right? So these are the project phases of a traditional project delivery system. So you have a design phase, you have construction plans phase, you have the bidding process. So how most of the projects usually have a bidding phase, and this is the general process that is carried out when a tender is laid out. Okay? So once the design is done and once the plans are done, they usually apply for the bidding. They usually submit their designs and the bidding occurs. And after the bidding, the tender is awarded to a particular contractor who begins the construction. They finish it, commission it, and turn it over to the owner. And then the building is occupied. But what happens in an integrated project delivery is that there is a new phase. There are two new phases. One is prior to the design phase, which is called pre-design, and one is after occupancy, which is called recommissioning. So, what is the addition? What are we looking at in addition to what already exists? So, in the pre-design phase, all of the team members that I mentioned about, the IPD, the Integrated Project Delivery Team, they sit down together, they discuss things. So, whatever to and fro, whatever negotiations have to be done, whatever trade-offs have to be discussed, they discussed over here. So, there's nothing new or there's no surprising element when actually the construction goes onto the site, right? So this avoids a lot of issues. I'm sure all of you must have come across this in the field. Usually, when the architects design a particular building, there's certain, there's certain acceptable designs and there's certain elements that are usually questioned. Okay, say if we are integrating a curved or non-linear structure into the design. Usually, there's arguments based on it because the structure has to be balanced. In the end, everybody is trying to ensure that the project succeeds. But since it's done very isolated, in an isolated manner, there's a lot of issues that arise on site. Okay, so sometimes they do not gel well together. So this pre-design phase sort of eliminates all of that difference of opinions. You have design, you have construction plans, you have the bidding process, you have construction, commissioning the building. All of these six phases we've seen in the previous, right? So till occupancy. The last is recommissioning. So what happens after you build? I mean, we've declared a new team. We are trying to get them to work together. We have introduced a pre-design phase. We've done everything that's there in the regular conventional building phases also. But is it working? Is there an analysis done, or is there any kind of assessment done on whether or not it is actually a green building or it continues to stay a green building? So that is what recommissioning does. It tries to evaluate if the methods that we have followed are working. Okay, and every once in a year, like how all of us have to keep updating to stay relevant in our fields, the buildings also have to keep, stay up to date, right? So there are certain elements, there's certain materials that go out of fashion or out of market, or there are certain alternate materials that come into the market. So we try to pull all of that together in the recommissioning phase. Okay, so the pre-design is the most critical phase of IPD. The lead system and structure a little later. But just for example, okay, says that our internet is unstable. In case I'm not audible or in case there's any issue with the slides, please let me know. I'll repeat it. Okay. So yes, so the first is to develop the project's vision. The second is to define the green goals of the building. So we'll be looking at this in detail a little later on. But usually when we start, applying for a green building certification, we have to set a target. We have to define what standard or what certification we're looking for that particular building. So defining the particular green goals. Are we just planning to have it a water efficient building, or are we planning to have a complete efficiency? Is it going to deal with only one aspect, or is it going to deal with all possible aspects, etc. Right? So you need to know what your target is to work towards it, and then you need to set your priorities, right? So definitely, as in there might be certain um aspects that you'll have to reconsider because sometimes one particular goal and another particular goal can clash with each other, right? So you need to decide which is of higher importance to you. Say you're very fixed on getting a green building. You're very fixed on getting a very lighted up, atmosphere. You're using natural light inside your building, or you're maximizing the natural light that gets into your building, but that is also going to cause issues of the heat getting trapped, right? So you need to add in insulation layers. But once you add in the insulation layers, the light is again an issue. So are you all right replacing, natural light with artificial light fixtures, or would you rather, invest a little more on your HVAC module? Okay, that is where you'll have to choose. So your priorities have to be set. You have to select the project team. You have to research on green technologies and strategies, right? So the technologies that I'm mentioning are actually tried and tested already. But definitely there's a lot of research and development going on in the field right now. And this constantly evolving field is going to bring up new strategies every day. New materials are going to come into the market every day. So newer methods and more better, or more efficient strategies will have to be pulled, and then you'll have to decide based on budgeting also, right? So a lot of times an alternative would be much better or much more efficient, but it would not suit within our budget goal. So you'll definitely have to cap how much you're ready to invest, um, and you have to review the applicable laws and standards. So all of this goes into the pre-design phase. The design phase looks at the project budget, which includes the green budget that we've already discussed. And you test and select the green technologies and strategies after finishing the research. You check the costs, you finalize the design decisions, then you move on to the rest of the phases. Okay. So, who are the players involved, or who are the stakeholders? We look at the project owner. Okay, we look at the architect. We look at the engineers. All of these people will be developing the particular building, right? So there's a commissioning authority who generally signs all of the plans, who generally gets all of the, good for GFC drawings approved, right? Then you need the general contractor who does the on-ground work. You need the facility staff. You need the building's users who come in after the building's construction is done. Now, this is a very broad, like table to distinguish between the traditional method and the integrated method. Okay, so when we look at the teams, The traditional method is usually hierarchical and they work independently. Like I said, it is a very linear method, whereas the IPD is a more collaborative process and it's shared and integrated, right? The risk in the traditional one is individual, whereas the risk in the integrated is shared. The compensation is again individual based, as in if the painter does a good job, he gets paid. If the HVAC person has a minor issue, then we pay them a little less, etc. Whereas in the integrated method, all of them actually have equal incentives. So they work as a team and to ensure that your building is a success, rather than looking at their own personal, benefits. The communication is paper based, mostly in the traditional, and it's switched over to digital and virtual in the integrated one. Um, the traditional method is less expensive since everybody is dealing in modules. The IPD, the integrated method, does something called a life cycle analysis. I'll be explaining this term a little later, but life cycle analysis, in short or broadly, if you look at it, talks about the entire cycle, right? So we're not looking at only from the design phase or design point of view. We're looking at what happens from the start, from when you procure the particular material to what happens after you dismantle or after you, finish using it. So this looks at and the green building goals are to be reviewed at every phase. Now, right. So this is the major drawback that a lot of people, consider. So when we're looking at a green building, it is usually the initial cost of investment is usually higher. Okay, here it says 2 to 5%, but I think the initial cost of investment is actually much higher. So the seed money that you put at the starting. Say for example, you want to make good use of the sunlight that falls onto your roof, right? So you install solar or photovoltaic panels on your roof for this. So this installation cost is going to be much, much higher than, just paying for the electricity that you get off the grid, right? But what happens is this will be balanced by new savings. But all of this green building is not a short-term, incentive. It's a very, very long-term goal. You're looking, 50 years ahead in future. There's going to be one point, a break-even point, where the cost that you actually invested on your solar panel, you're going to equalize it, and then you're going to whatever you get is actually your savings, right? Uh, but the initial cost, you should know that there's, a little more money that you have to put in at the starting. But like I said, it's balanced by new sales. So you have a lower cost for HVAC, lesser energy consumption, increased productivity, increased market value. One second. Okay, sound is breaking. Uh, can you tell me from where was I not audible? I can repeat it. Hello. All right, I'll just keep continuing. Let me know if you need me to repeat it. Right. So, okay, one second. Let me see a message. During and um, okay, sure. All right. Okay. So when you're looking at cost and benefits, like I mentioned, it actually performs better, right? So, although you're paying a little more upfront, although you have a little more cost that you bear at the start of a project, okay, there are a lot of performance incentives that you get when compared to conventional ones. So, according to a survey, green buildings actually have 13% lower maintenance cost. It has 26% lesser energy usage. It has 27% higher levels of occupant satisfaction and 33% lower CO2 emissions. Okay, so these are the kind of benefits that we're looking at. Now, the next concept we'll be looking at is life cycle analysis and life cycle costs, right? So, let me explain life cycle cost first. So, this contains all of the economic impacts, anything monetary. So all of the, the addition, the sum of all of the one-time costs, all of the repeated costs that you spend on a particular building, on, a particular material or a particular good, the service, the systems, etc. Everything put together, that's actually the life cycle cost. Okay. But when you look at life cycle analysis, it's going to be looking at only the environmental impacts, right? So this particular material that you choose, okay, how much of an impact is it going to cause on the environment? And how it's not only going to deal with the economic part, it's not going to just talk about how much money you used to procure that particular material. It's going to talk about the, CO2 emissions you, what is this, you gave into the environment while trying to procure the material. It's going to talk about how many trees or how much of wildlife was actually sacrificed for that particular material, right? So you're looking at different aspects of environment when you look at life cycle analysis. So broadly, life cycle analysis is the environmental impact. Life cycle cost is the economic impact, right? So when we look at costs, again, the two types of costs. One is hard cost and one is the soft cost. So hard cost is anything that deals with fixed costs, um, that improves the property or the project work. This is anything, like I said, anything that you're trying to, any tangible material that you're trying to get into the building, the machinery, the people, uh, sorry, not the people, sorry, the machinery, the materials, all of this would come under the hard costs. Whereas soft cost is all the service fees and all the indirect costs that you pay for your building. Say the construction fees or the for the architecture, the architect's fee, the legal fees, the permit fees, etc., etc. All of these additional fees that you pay, these all come under the category of soft costs. Okay. Right. So as I mentioned, life cycle analysis, uh, it tries to compare the performance of buildings and it talks about what saves money. Okay, but it focuses on the environmental aspect of it. The life cycle cost looks at the initial cost, the operation, the maintenance, the replacement, everything over throughout the life cycle, but all of the costs, the hard and soft costs. The next concept that we should be looking at is the triple bottom line. Okay, so this is TBL or 3BL or triple bottom line, etc. It's known through various names, but it's actually a key indicator of true sustainability. So what are we looking at when we say triple bottom line? Okay, this was a term used in 1989 first. Okay, so the 3BL stands for people, planet, and profit. Okay. So people talks about the social equity, social responsibility that we have. The planet talks about the environment and ecology. The profit talks about the economic impacts, right? So sustainability is taking all of this into consideration, not just the environment. It ensures that we don't pay too much money and we don't pollute the environment. And we are also keeping the people in mind, the users, the stakeholders. It could be the occupants, it could be the people who just work there for a few hours. It could be people who stay there, it could be people who work, everybody. So all of the people, the planet and the profit, they fall under the triple bottom line. So how does this function? Right. So this is an example of what I've already mentioned. Right. Now, let's move on to the introduction of GBCI and USGBC. So LEED is actually an exam, right? I'll be giving the full form. I'll be explaining what LEED and LEED GA, etc. is a little. We're almost there right now. But USGBC and GBCI are two organizations that we should know about before getting to know about LEED. So USGBC was actually founded in the year 1993. So um, it's an organization that was created for green buildings and for information on green buildings. So they're basically the front, runners in this particular industry. When nobody really understood the meaning of green building, these people had a long-term vision in mind already. So the mission is to transform the way buildings and communities are designed, built, operated, enabling an environmentally and socially responsible, healthy, and prosperous environment that improves the quality of life. Okay. So there's a so how do they accomplish this mission? Since I've already mentioned, right? So these people formed this particular organization in 1993, and they wanted to educate people regarding the same. They wanted to let people know what green building is. They wanted more people to, understand, the depth of this, the necessity of this particular concept. So they want to educate people and expertise, since they already and they are continuously learning also, but they were still slightly ahead of others. So they were experts in this particular field and they were ready to share their expertise with the other people that were interested in knowing about the same. They shared the resources, as in USGB periodically reviews and keeps creating, tools and toolkits that can be put to use to understand, to learn about green buildings, to measure the how green a building is, etc. There's a forum for industry dialogue that goes on. There are committees, chapters, and conferences that are again periodically um, updated. So all of these updates in this particular domain, right? So when we look at principles of USGBC, it's to promote the triple bottom line, the people, planet, and profit agenda, the establishment of leadership, creating and restoring harmony between humans and nature, maintaining integrity by using technical and scientific data to help guide decision making, to ensure inclusiveness by using a democratic process and giving everyone an opportunity to be heard, exhibit transparency by having open standards. Now, I've just actually just read through all of the principles of USGBC, but these are things that you will find on the website. So USGBC, the official website, has very detailed description of what the mission is of their vision and what the principles are, what they stand for. It has, a certain sections devoted to education and continuing education. There's certain courses that you can take in addition to all of this once you're done with the lead GA exam. Okay. So these are some certain disciplinary policy rules that all of us, generally follow in a professional field. You have to be truthful, you have to be forthcoming, you have to be cooperative, you have to continue to comply with the GBCI rules. So US GBC I've already explained, but what GBCI stands for is Green Building Certification Institute. Okay, so although US GBC sets the standard, GBCI uses them. That is the particular organization that certifies buildings, certifies people also. So we will be looking at the LEED, which is a standard that USGBC has prepared, but all of us are certified by GBCI. So if you want to write the LEED GA exam, you study the LEED booklets and study the LEED material. But we will finally be attempting the exam that is prepared by the GBCI, and that is the organization that finally certifies a particular person and decides if they are certified enough or not. And that is the organization to which we usually submit the green building certification requirements also. So they decide on who and which buildings are green on to be accredited. So now, when we look at writing lead LEED actually does not directly say this particular product is a LEED product or this particular bulb is LEED certified, etc. Right? All the maximum it can say is this. This product contributes towards satisfying credit X under LEED. So credits, LEED, etc., I think we'll get a little more clarity once we move ahead. The next thing is we can never say that this this building is LEED registered, this building is LEED certified. So here the issue is that the certified is the C is not in caps. We should use this particular sentence, the first one. This building is LEED certified. This building is LEED platinum. So platinum is one category of LEED certification for buildings. Okay. So upon completion, this building will apply to become LEED certified. So these are the correct forms of how we should address a particular project. And the previous slide, this particular one is the correct form of how LEED can be used for products. And when you write about USGBC, you either address it as USGBC or U.S. Green Building Council and GBC in caps. You cannot have them in small letters as the one indicated below. So all of these things are minor things that we just have to keep in mind. Right. So, like I already mentioned, GBCI, which is the Green Building Certification Institute, this was created much later in 2008, and it provides the credentials that we're looking for. So, project certification and credentials for people, both of this is done by GBCI. So, their mission is to support a high level of competence in building networks for environmental efficiency through the development and administration of a format program of certification and recertification. Okay. So anytime we wish to appear for a credential program, the professional accreditation, all of this, it has to go through GBCI. So GBCI handles credential programs, professional accreditation, lead project certification, credential maintenance. So what do I mean by credential maintenance? Once we all obtain the lead GA exam or lead GA certification, we are expected to continue updating ourselves, right? So, like I mentioned, we're supposed to stay very up to date in this field, and GBCI actually keeps that as one of the main criteria. So, we're requested, like, we're actually required to report a few hours. So, every 2 hours once, 2 years once, we're supposed to report 15 hours. So, once, say, for example, I obtained the lead GA certificate in 2020, right? So that particular certificate would be valid for a period of 2 years, within which I'll have to report a few hours. So I'll have to report, it can be anything. It can be education. So anything, all the training that one undertakes for lead GA preparation or for lead AP preparation, all of that can be counted as lead, report, like hours to be reported. And if you teach what I'm doing right now. This could also be hours that can be reported. So teaching or being taught, these are all ways for credential maintenance. You can also work on lead projects. You can also, as in lead APs are required on projects usually, and that also that's actually an additional credit. So in case you're a lead AP, in case you qualify the lead AP exam, then assisting in projects and assisting in the documentation of projects, etc., would also earn you more credits. Okay, and that will also help in your credential maintenance. So GBCI is an organization that handles all of this. But what does USGBC do? So GBCI final certification is done by GBCI, right? So what is this certification based on? So that rating system is developed by USGBC. Okay, so final exam and final credit checking process is done by GBCI, but the base, the rating system, the manual on whether or not this particular credit is there, this particular uh, this particular aspect or feature that you're adding would add to your green building. All of that would come under the LEED rating system, LEED education research program, and it is based on these rating systems that the certification process is carried out. Again, this is a basic comparison between USGBC and GBCI. Okay, so you have these are the two logos, as you can see. The LEED rating system is developed by USGBC, Whereas GBCI provides third-party LEED project certification. So only the certification is done by GBCI. They do not develop standards on their own. All the standards are set and designed by USGBC, and GBCI just undertakes the examinations and ensures that people maintain their credentials, etc. Now, coming to LEED, what is LEED? The full form is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. Okay, it's a point-based system. All the credits are actually rated. All the features that you have are given points, and all of these points are added total, and they're actually given across 7 categories. It's a third-party green building rating system, which is developed by the USGBC. So the official website for USGBC is www.usgbc.org. In your free time, I would suggest you just go take a look at the particular website to understand what this particular organization does, and to understand their overall structure, the basics of USGBC, can be seen on there. Okay, this is actually a very important uh, information and usually occurs in most of the exams as whatever previous question papers or whatever practice papers that I've seen usually have this particular one question with respect to this. Okay, so the LEED certification for buildings is done on 4 levels. Okay, so a total of 100 points plus 10 points in addition. I'll show you the breakup of the points a little later. But out of these total 110, you need a minimum of 40 to be certified. Okay, so a range of 40 to 49 is certified, USGB LEED certified. A range from 50 to 59 is LEED silver. A range from 60 to 79 is LEED gold. And a range from 80 or above is platinum. Okay, so these are the 4 categories. The questions are very simple and very direct. They can actually just ask you a particular building has points of 85. So which category or which LEED rating would it fall under? All you just have to do is remember these particular ranges, remember the 4 categories, and you already have one question through. So the questions that come from these basic introduction chapters are more or less on a broad level understanding of green building and sustainability concepts and basic introduction to what LEED is and what the process is. Since you're going to be an accredited professional, since you're expected to be helping projects apply for this particular green building certification project, it's a green building certification program, you will be expected to know these things. Okay, you'll be expected to know the details of these categories. You'll be expected to know what prerequisites are, what credits are, and etc. Right. So in total, there are 10 prerequisites and there are 34 credits. And for these 34 credits and prerequisites, you're given 100 points. And 10 points, the breakup is like the 10 points in addition are actually like they're like bonus points. Okay. So these bonus points are given for innovation and for regional priority. So regional priority basically means context-based design. So when we look at a particular design in Rajasthan, a particular design in say Himachal, right? So the climate in these particular locations are actually very different. So you cannot really take one element and put it in both the places, right? You'll adapt it a little to that particular setting. So that is where your regional priority credits come. So they will be looking at whether or not you have understood the context into which you're applying that particular feature. And then the innovation credits, they're basically looking at what new methods or what new, in addition, say for example, for water efficiency, okay. They've already mentioned the minimum percentage of how much water you need to save for a particular building to be certified or silver or gold, etc. But if you find a new method, so for this water saving, they could have suggested a few methods. They could have said you need to use these particular systems where you need to reuse this particular water. This amount of water has to be reused. This amount of water has to be recycled, etc., etc. But say you found a totally new method that has not been mentioned in the LEED systems altogether. Okay, so that's where your innovation credits come. That's something out of the box but still very applicable in your context, right? So that is where your innovation points come in. Now, so the LEED has three tiers. The first is the LEED Green Associate, which all of you are preparing for. The next is LEED AP, which comes in with a specialty. And the third is the LEED Fellow. Okay? So LEED Green Associate is actually a very basic exam. And most people that appear for this exam clear it. They prepare, and the preparation that we give for this particular course, the materials that we give, and the kind of questionnaires that we have are usually sufficient to get through the LEED Green Associate exam. Okay, so everybody that has appeared for the exam from our side has actually cleared it. The second exam is LEED AP, which has BD+C, which is Building Design plus Construction, O+M, which is Operation and Maintenance, ID+C, which is Interior Design and Construction, ND, which is Neighborhood Development. Okay, so these are all specializations. So once you're done clearing the LEED GA exam, people usually opt for LEED EP. So LEED Accredited Professional, which is the full form, they usually take it with specialization. So until 2009, did a very general exam, right? But everybody that appeared after 2009 had to take up one of these four categories and then prepare for that particular category. So, brief about LEED Green Associate. This is the first year of LEED Professional Credentialing. Uh, Under the USGB guidelines, so V4, okay, V4.1 has also come up. So LEED keeps, okay, the LEED Green Associate exam is the first exam, like I mentioned. It's the basic knowledge and skill that you need for green, building and design and construction. Uh, these V4, V4.1, etc., are all the booklets that come periodically. Like I said, they are periodically revised. Right? So V4 was the booklet, I think, 2 years back, and V4.1 is the one that's very recently published. Um, Taking into consideration, like it's minor modifications and alterations and incorporations that people have suggested, that people have tried and tested a few more methods, a few more subtractions here and there. All of this are done. Uh, right. So there are people that do the early GA and AP together, but I would suggest you take them one at a time. It's easier to prepare for. LEED AP with the specialty is the second credential that we're looking at. So the accredited professional, which is the AP full form. It's a little more advanced. Okay, it's a little more depth that we're looking at in that particular field, right? So I told you four categories: the building design and construction, operation maintenance, interior design and construction, neighborhood development. So you take one particular field, you choose one particular category, and then you give an exam in that. So LEED AP is usually that. You can appear in more than one. There's no restriction that you have to take only one. But whichever ones you want to take, you will have to appear, in an exam for that. Right. The third is the LEED fellow. So this particular is the third tier. This is the highest level. This is actually under development. They keep updating this. There are very few LEED fellows as of now. This requires a very, very high level of knowledge and expertise. Okay, and they're supposed to be involved and they're supposed to have exceptional contribution to this particular field. Okay, so more or less, until unless you've done exceptional work, until unless you've done, you've contributed, you've dedicated your life to green building and you've practiced that all your life, USGBC awards this particular LEED fellow only to those people. So, LEED GA eligibility, you have to meet one of the three requirements. So, the first is to work on a LEED project. Okay, so you will be involved in the documentation, right? So, already you have seen how it is done. You might have seen the templates, the meetings, etc., etc. So, once you've gone through the process once, you can actually be a part of it again. So, working on a LEED project is the first eligibility. The second is to be employed uh, in a sustainable field of work. And the third is education. So anybody that undertakes a particular preparation course, like the one we're doing now, automatically is eligible for it. Next, this is a brief on the exam ka steps. The first we've already understood what GBCI does, what USGBC does. So USGBC provides the research and education. The GBCI is the one that's going to be giving you the exam, proctoring the exam and testing you, and then awarding you the credential and certification. Okay, so Prometric is basically the third party that administers the test for them. Okay, so once the course is done within a gap of 2 to 3 weeks, in these 2 to 3 weeks, you'll actually have to prepare a lot. You'll actually have to, go through the questionnaires that okay. After the particular session is done, after say today, I'll be covering the chapter 1 and 2, right? So once I finish this, I'll be sending you a questionnaire from today's session. So you can go through the questionnaire, you answer it, and we'll be discussing this at the start of the next session. And after we finish all of the sessions, as of now, we've scheduled 5 sessions. Once we finish all of the sessions, maybe we might need one or we might be finishing right on time. That depends totally. Depending on that, once we finish all the sessions, we'll be sharing, the chapter level questionnaires and the question banks with you. So you'll have to discuss that with the Qatar office, and then they'll share all of the password and link for the test. So you have chapter wise questionnaires, you have complete exams also. So you'll be the complete set of these sample papers, basically the mock tests, will have scoring done. So once you start attempting the scoring, and once you periodically, like once you actually consistently, get about 90%, I would say this would take 2 to 3 weeks continuously. Once you prepare in such a way, once in the heat of the moment, I think you'll be done with in by 2 or 3 weeks. So once you finish that, you will actually ready for the exam. You can contact the office, and they will do the registration process and everything for you also, and you can take the exam. So this particular exam, it's proctored. They're actually like a heavy proctoring system goes on. There's no room for malpractice, etc. And it's actually quite easy to clear. The Right. So all of these process, I think, as you can see, you need a $50 application fee. And USCBC members or full-time students have a registration fee of $150 for the exam and $200 for everybody else. Time and location of your test you can decide, and then you just have to take the exam. So the exam is 100 MCQ, paper, and each of this, the total is out of 200. Okay, and it's a 2-hour paper. In addition, right, Aaron, I just saw your message. You have a question. Okay. You're checking GBCI website, right? Okay, so you're talking about the application for the exams, right? Uh, I'll just check and I'll get back to you on this. Um, okay. Usually, the office gets this done, right? So this, I think there's an explanation for the credentials on the GPCA website. Okay, I'll get back to you on this in the next session. I'll let you know this in the session that we have day after. I'll clarify this part alone. Okay. So the basic structure of the paper, you have 100 MCQs, 2-hour paper, um, and the minimum score that you need to pass the exam is 170. Okay, and okay, it says 70% correct on the practice says it should be your aim, but I would say keep it at 90. That'll give you a lot. Actually, it's very easy. And once you get a hang of the subject and once you get a hang of the different topics, it's actually quite easy to score. And once you understand the basics of all of this, the basics of green building and the basics of what is to be done in LEED. Okay, it's more or less the questions that are a little twisted to just test if you actually understood the concept properly or not. Okay, so aim for a 90%, and then you can just attempt the exam. Uh, Additionally, right, okay. So ASHRAE standards, I'll be mentioning as and when I take the particular modules, which are the additional technical, Okay, so um, for lead GA, we have the Green Associate Candidates Handbook. We have a study guide, a core concepts book. Okay, so these are the books that I think Ravi sir will be sharing them with each of you once the session is done, or he might have shared them with you already. So in case he hasn't, he will do it soon. So those particular books, once the session is done, I would suggest you go through the slides because they're basically the crux and gist of what has been written in the core concepts. Then you go through the core concepts in the study guide booklets and you practice the questions. Okay, I think this should be sufficient. When you're looking at the particular modules, and I think the energy module, etc., which is slightly bigger and slightly more technical, we'll have ASHRAE guidelines and we have such more technical requirements that come into the picture. I'll keep mentioning them and I'll mention the numbers and figures as and where it appears. Giving them right now does not it which is confuse you right now. Okay. So right. So you already the study guide, they'll be sharing all of this. Okay. The next cause, like the next concern for you should be what comes in the exam. So usually the questions are divided in these 7 categories, in these 7 domains. The first is synergic opportunities and lead application process. So what do I mean by synergic opportunities? Like I think I already mentioned this in other words. So say you're taking up a particular feature and you're taking up a particular uh, what do you say, a particular green building strategy. Sometimes it could be helping in more than one, say a rooftop planting, right? Or that could actually help in water management, the stormwater drain off over there. It could also help in ambient temperature control. So it's not helping in just one category, it's actually dealing with more than one category. So this is what we call a synergy. So you look at synergic opportunities, and sometimes there are clashes also, right? So there are certain certain features that are an advantage in one category and slightly disadvantage in another category. So that's where you look at the trade-offs. That's where you look at the priorities. I remember mentioning it in the first slide. So you look at your priority in that particular project and you decide which one's more important for you. So synergic opportunities, lead application process is the first domain. Project site factors is the second domain. Project systems and energy impacts is the third. Acquisition, installation, and management of project materials is the fourth. Stakeholder involvement in innovation, project surroundings, and public outreach. Okay, so